Well, I mean,
I'm not gonna lie. I went to
is-
watch one of my news podcasts yesterday, and the person did forget to record at the microphone and did use the webcam, and I did immediately shut the episode off. I was like, I can't do this.
Well, there you go.
And it made me feel a little bit like a hypocrite. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I didn't care. I just said, you know what? It's not happening.
Were there timestamps?
No, this particular podcast does not do timestamps, Chad.
Sad, man.
the bar is just way too high, man.
I know timestamps, keeping track of what you talk
like
about. And
balanced audio, use different scenes, couple of cameras, do clips and everything.
I know, and technically we should.
But we won't give up. In a decade or two, we'll get there.
Technically, we shouldn't even be swearing for the first 10 minutes of the podcast.
It's true. We did learn a lot from Flom's old manager.
I was
Matt.
about to say F that, but
You can say that. That's fine.
I already said the F word in the first 30 seconds. It just happened. I didn't mean to.
Well, then you can say it again. Why do you have to say the F word?
I didn't pay attention. I don't listen to Jason half the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we could make a swear jar moving forward into the future for the first 10 minutes of the podcast.
First 10 minutes?
First
Okay.
10-minute swear jar.
What do we do with the money?
I don't know. We don't have any sponsors, so I guess we just take it and try and
We
eat a
give-
meal. I guess like maybe some McDonald's.
We give like online therapy to some of the Discord members.
Who needs it the most?
I don't know. There's so many.
Chad was getting into it with someone the other day. Oh, Chad was getting into it with Bob. Chad and
I don't think so.
Bob were going head to head.
I don't think that's true.
Okay.
I don't think we were going head to head. I think I may have just called out one of his opinions. I don't even recall said conversation, Jason.
I don't
It's in
either.
writing.
Which is why I would have built upon that if I could.
Yeah, see, I don't know what you're talking about here, all right? You're making things up. You're putting words in people's mouths, and I don't appreciate it, all right?
All right, I'm gonna find it.
Well, you do that. I've been more active in the Discord lately. People don't annoy me as much at the moment, so I wonder what's different in my life that I'm not being triggered by people online as much as I normally am.
Is your cactus alive still?
Yes,
Nice.
I think so.
That's probably what it is. That's probably
Yeah,
that
the
little joy of
cactus is alive.
happiness of coming home to some green. You know.
I had a plant alive, a plant on my desk when I came home. That is dying in the kitchen right now. It's no longer on my desk, so that's probably about it. I went and saw 28 Years Later last night.
How was that?
It was strange. It was a strange film. In reflection, I don't know what I was expecting because I've seen 28 Days Later, I've seen 28 Weeks Later. I think they're both good movies because I like the zombie flicks. I enjoyed The Walking Dead until it got too fucking strange.
When did you
Strange is
check
the word
out
of
of
the
The
day.
Walking Dead? When did you check out?
I think after the first time we saw Negan. I think I was out after that.
That's when I switched off too. I was just like, I'm done.
Yeah, it became too much about like interpersonal politics and nonsense. I was more just into like the how do we survive the zombies? But then of course eventually it's going to become how do you survive the other humans, which is kind of what 28 Years Later is like, but just weird. The ending is really weird. I don't want to say like it's just I think the more I consider it, I was entertained and it was a different spin on a zombie flick. I don't know what I was expecting to go into watching. So maybe it'll be a slow burn. Maybe I'll appreciate it more over time. But I still want to go see Mission Impossible. I've got one more to watch at home. I got 7 to watch. I want to go see 8. And then I even saw... Did you see the Formula 1 trailer with Brad Pitt?
I've seen
saw
the
the
trailer.
trailer, and
Yeah.
Jane and I are planning on going to the
people have
theater.
been raving about it. So
If you have an Apple device and you watch the trailer on the Apple device, it's got like haptic feedback. Like the phone will vibrate and stuff when things are happening with the car. So if you're
World's
watching it on
getting
like
weird.
an iPhone or whatever, right?
World's getting weird.
Yeah, I watched that on my partner's phone. And I was like, this is strange, but that looks like a good film too. And the new
I can
Jurassic
think of
Park
better
movie.
uses with haptic feedback than a F1 movie, but
Well, I will take any win
that's
I
for
can get
another
around here.
podcast.
Remember 3D? Oh no, they were
No, the
4D.
That's
4D
the
seats.
worst.
The
3D
4D
was the
seats.
worst.
3D sucked. Don't know why we brought 3D back, but 4D.
I didn't mind. I thought 3D was cool with certain movies. They filmed it with 3D in mind.
like
like-
Avatar.
Okay, the world's going to explode. Avatar was a cool viewing experience. The story itself doesn't need to be raved about or anything like that. It's a classic. It's a rehash. But the visual experience of watching the movie was incredible.
Now, what do you think it's a rehash of, Jason? I'm interested. I feel like you're going to default to Pocahontas here.
I mean, there's elements of that in it for sure. I think most of the stories are like rehashes of multiple things, like kind of thrown together.
For me, it's very Fern Gully.
I was gonna
You
say
know?
Gully was another one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yanka, do you know Fern Gully?
No idea.
That's all right.
What's
You
that?
actually you could show it to your kid.
Fern.
Yeah, Fern Gully's good.
Yeah, you
NaVi.
can show it to your kid. That'd be a good.
I
kid's
watched it
movie.
growing
Never
up, and
saw
I turned
this.
out just fine. So
But-
Yeah.
Pocahontas,
Yeah.
we got Pocahontas in the 90s.
Yeah, Ferngully's played a little bit before that, I think. Right, so
That caught Jason off guard.
Gentlemen,
Wait, what else had something you were talking about?
your haptic feedback device.
No, that's in the works. That's a great. We need to patent that, Jason. I just wanted to say I wanted to give you props, Jason. I wanted to shout you out. I went for like a weekend vacation trip to Greece without the kid. It was more of a have fun, eat, drink, and everything, and like it's not the same anymore. My body used to be able to handle it way better. So you being able to, drink day in and day out and function normally, even function better, some would say, I think is underappreciated. So cheers to you, Jason. We all know it's not coffee in that cup. And
well, it is. It's an Irish coffee.
Yeah, it's, some Bailey's cream, a little bit of Kahlua. It's great.
There you go. Yeah, that's why he's in such a good mood.
Well, Jason, your favorite drink is a old fashioned, right?
It is, yes. Although I've become very partial to the spicy margarita after Austin.
Okay, but what's in an old fashioned? Is it Scotch or is it bourbon?
It's bourbon or rye, and then simple syrup and an orange peel, some bitters. It's a very simple drink. Yeah.
So why don't we get sponsored by your favorite bourbon?
I tried after I did it's not my favorite bourbon, but after I did the Jameson stuff for the blast major in Paris.
We didn't get it. Well, it's
yeah,
not your favorite.
Yeah, that's no. I
They could
hyped
see
it up.
right through you, Jason.
No, I told all the guys because I was like, Jameson was the college whiskey that we did. It was like the indie shot in the States. Is like you go to like a dive bar in Chicago because everything's so expensive. They had the hipster deal, which was a PBR, a light beer, and a shot of Jameson for $5. So Jameson was, I love Jameson, but they just.
I like also how some people had different hairstyles growing up, different phases, and Jason has different phases of alcohol that he drank at the time.
As I'm telling this story, I'm realizing it's not going in a good place. it's not hyping me up the way I wanted to. But yeah, no, they didn't want to. They chose not to continue heavy investment in esports after the Paris major. So that one didn't go away.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't play Counter-Strike drunk, everybody. You play. You need to be in a clear state of mind when playing Counter-Strike.
Feels half of my teammates are playing drunk.
Well, or on other substances.
And they're all my
Janko.
friends.
Have you seen the fentanyl lean? We saw plenty of that in the States. No, it's called the fentanyl fold, actually.
No.
Oh my God.
It's where they're just like absolutely cracked out of their minds and they're just bent over like a zombie.
Now I know, yeah. We see that in Dallas all the time because there's that bus station.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
relatively close to the hotel, so whenever you Uber to whatever food somewhere, whenever you're going somewhere, you sort of have to pass by it, and it's just so crazy to see.
Very sad.
Like in the middle of downtown.
Who was the North American player that had like the Fent joke around him? Was it Lake or something? Harry kept shouting it out like a Fent joke because some player made a joke about going to get Fent on Twitter. I forget who it was.
Who was it? Was it
Can't
NACS
remember.
or something? It could have been
might
like
have
one of these
been.
new complexity
Yeah, it
guys,
was one of the
right?
younger guys for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the less media trained guys.
No, that's fine. Graham doesn't need a media trainer to keep him raw. Graham's bringing Counter-Strike
Yeah.
back to its roots, Shout out to Complexity one time. Well, speaking of Graham, he didn't seem very happy, guys, with the Souvenir replay clips. So he's quite unhappy with them. Did you see his tweets?
I haven't seen his tweet yet. I'm going to pull it up right now.
Well, he took to Twitter saying, "These Souvenir highlights add zero value to me." So he clarified that it's a personal opinion.
Okay.
I doubt they'll drive sales in any meaningful way. Realistically, I don't really know who or what they are for. Are people going to marketplace buy specific highlights that they liked? ? I cannot understand why team logo charms haven't been added. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. And then he's followed up again with a retweet of his own tweet. With a comment saying, "Seems like the rollout of these was pretty terrible in general, with the clips not matching description, incorrect replays compared to what they should be, and double audio playing amongst some other issues, probably all fixable eventually. But worst of all, there are 492 clips from 398 rounds of gameplay. The volume of clips is simply too high, probably led to the poor quality control, so there is some utter shite in many of these clips, totally worthless stuff that nobody wants to or will remember."
Well,
What a scolding review from
That's
Graham
a-
out the gates.
I don't know what to say. That's scorched earth.
He had just the coffee. He didn't have the Jason coffee. That's the difference, guys. Now you know. I don't know. I only got to see a couple of them, like that are top Reddit, and some are funny. But it
Bro,
looks, yeah,
it's
go
low
ahead.
key. It's a low key bird when they put Simple's op misses as a highlight clip. That's actually wild to me. I mean, the reality is we shouldn't call them highlight clips because they're like souvenir memorable moment clips,
Yes,
right?
memorable moment, or not even memorable
moments.
moment, just match moments, maybe.
Yeah.
Right, like playoff match moments. I was starting to get a bit verbose, but I think the thing was, I think it was like 30 clips per match was what they were meant to deliver, if I remember the conversation rightly. And the thing there was, I remember talking to the devs, and I was like, so what if somebody gets like one M4 kill onto a Glock, and they're like, yeah. I was like, okay, well, it's like they're not. It's meant to be random, right? Like that's the whole thing with this loot case situation is, you know, you open it, what do you get? You don't know. You're trying to get the, I don't know, on Anubis,
Trying to get
for
the
example.
techno ace.
Yeah, right. But it's not like you're trying to get the good gun, and you're also trying to get the good highlight. So you're trying to get the wombo combo of the two of them right there. So that's kind of how these things are going to be attributed value on the marketplace. People are going to be going out of their way to get Apex giving the finger to the crowd, or like the 910 AWP, AWP ace. Like those things right there are going to have some value. But overall, like I can see why people are upset because a lot of people were commenting, oh, you know, these highlights are nothing, and I think a match might not even have any good rounds. You know, there's rounds of Counter-Strike that have like maybe one or two good moments where there's nothing crazy that happens. The whole point is you would want to have a set number per match, and then some are good and some are bad and some are terrible and some are funny and so, you know. So I it's whatever. You don't have to spend your money on it. They're not fucking making you.
I have a couple of questions about all of this. First of all, if you get one, can I see the one that you have? Like if you're in a match,
yes,
I
you
can
see
watch
it
your
from the
highlight.
scoreboard.
If
You
I
can
was
see it
using
through
the weapon,
scoreboard.
yeah.
Yep.
And I can just like whatever, click on it the same. I could click on your coin, and I could click and I could watch that highlight.
You can click on it from the scoreboard in a game, and you can watch the highlight. It'll pop up.
All right. That's question number one. Second one, the actual souvenir is just the Blast logo or
No. So
the chain. What does it look like?
Oh, I guess
the charm.
because
It comes with a charm, right?
it's the dog tags, right? So it's like the dog tags are on it, and on that has like the Austin kind of logo, but it's also like the weapon from whatever case, whatever map it is, like Anubis, for example. Right now I'm looking at my Souvenir MP7 Sunk Baked with an Anubis gold sticker, a FaZe, a Mongols, and a Blast one, right? And then it has the dog tags on it. And then I can look at my highlight, and what's my highlight? My highlight here is Carrigan Entry Fragger. Him pushing through connector on Anubis and getting 2 kills.
Oh, that's a good one. You want to keep hold of that one.
Yeah, so I opened 5 and they're all shit. So, you know, but at least I'm taking part.
So the most value is just if you can get a good gun out of the drop. I mean,
Or
if
a
you
good
get
highlight.
if you get a good gun with a good clip, would be pretty god tier. But you can also take the highlight clip off. It's not restricted to that weapon.
Oh,
you can take
see,
the
now we're
highlight clip
learning.
off and move it to a different weapon.
Oh,
Yeah, you can get
okay. Well, then that would be sick. Like, if you had the 910 ace, he could go and put that on, like, his AWP or whatever AWP he was using. Like, that'd be sick for the player, and I guess for super fans, people who are really into that kind of stuff.
And then you can buy, so you can sell them on the marketplace.
Yes.
Okay, so he can just buy one of the marketplace and then change it to his op, for example, that he did it with, and then have it there.
According to Jason Moses
Moses O'Toole.
Yes,
all right. Who's having a really good morning. Nice.
Yeah, very good.
All right, then.
Well,
the clip in its own right really doesn't matter to it does feel like I'm kind of agreeing with Graham here. It doesn't feel like it has a ton of value.
Well,
unless there's how many of these are out there, like the Apex one.
I guess it depends on how many get open. Like, it's a random chance, right? Like it is with all the skins. So it's just, I think the number was something like 30 clips per map, right? That was the sheer amount of clips that were required, I think. And then because of that, like, different things are going to be attributed different values. It's just like, you know, some skins in Counter-Strike have a higher value because the people like the way it looks compared to another one. You know, like, why is skins guys are gonna hate me, but, like, you know, why is a basic Karambit less expensive than a Doppler, right? Well, a Doppler looks cooler, so people attribute more value to it, but it costs you the same amount of money to open that case as it would just to get the other one.
And
right?
I would wonder if they treated it almost like a skin case where they would have, like, if they designated certain clips to be like higher probability to get them than not, right? Like if you would go into a map and say, these are the cool highlight clips. These are the 5 that we want to be really hard to find. These have X percentage, and these ones that are a little bit more average are like Y percentage. So more people get the Ys, makes the X value, I don't know, makes that original clip harder to find. I'm losing myself.
Live.
Look, I
That's
just woke up. Yeah.
You can go for a refill anytime you want. We can keep going, Jason. It's no problem. All right. So I guess the next question is, how do you guys feel about, because they come with the casting, and you get fuck all.
Yeah. So
But we finally got our voice in the game, Yanko. We finally got it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's an interesting question. I suppose what I would have to do is go read the fine print in the contract that I would have signed with Blast to work their event.
It would have said they own you. Everything you do is their ownership.
Well, there you go. So I can say nothing.
Yes, but okay, that was in the sense of before this thing came along. Because in reality, it was just that they could use clips of you from games for like their trailers or something else, or to promote their product, which is, sensible. We're not there yet where we can really negotiate for that stuff and anything like that. But do you feel like this is different?
I don't know. I think if it becomes a precedent, right? Because I think Blast had to do the work right now to make these clips. So then if the next TO, which is Star Ladder, if they don't want to do it or they don't have the resources to do it, then maybe it doesn't exist, or maybe fucking Valve go, oh, this wasn't very successful, we don't want to do it again. So, but if we're going to operate in a world where this becomes like a normal thing, I don't know, because it's different, right? We know that back in the day, the Dota people for the international got... was it voice packs or voice lines, whatever the fuck it was. But that's because, as far as we understood, we might be wrong. If someone for Dota can reach out and tell us, but we were under the impression that Valve were the ones that picked the broadcast members for their events, right? Like that's at least the understanding we were under. Whereas for the Counter-Strike majors, it's different because the tournament organizer selects and also makes the schedule, right? So, Blast are the ones giving out the games to certain casters. Anders and DDK didn't do any playoff games, so they don't have any voice lines there. So, I did 2 playoff games, whereas did everybody do 2? Harry and Hugo did a quarter and semi. Scrawny and Launders did yes, everyone did 2. Some games, I don't know. I really don't know. Well, it's nothing that I put too much thought into. I
haven't either. But then it also gets weird because then you're like only giving half of the broadcast talent that kind of a feature, right? What about the analysts and the interviewers that are at the event? They just kind of get screwed, which is,
Well, that's fine by me. I mean, in the sense of
okay. Well,
no, I mean it's the nature of the job. I'm not a shout cat, like I'm not a commentator. I don't get those hype moments, and that's just what the job is. That's okay. What could you get? You couldn't get. It would have to be some bit from the desk or anything like that. But what would you tie it to? Nothing. No one wants.
No, but that's my point. Like I think if there's a world in which someone says, okay, we're gonna pay the commentators for these highlight clips, I'd hope that it'd be arranged to where that pool of money is split with the talent at the event.
All right, Jason's going to become an analyst, apparently.
Fucking socialist over here.
Dude, I would say the same thing if I was a caster as well, just because I think that's the only fair way to do things. What
do you mean fair way?
Exactly what I said. Exactly what I said.
Well, I don't think there should be. Look, this is what I'm saying. There's no conversation that can be had here anyway, because when we
we don't know the details. Yeah.
Right, and Blast are obviously going to get a percentage based off of like how many of these souvenir things are bought. Like that's the way this works. They do generate revenue through this, but because we signed a contract like this, I just returned to this because we signed a contract that said we had no idea this was a thing until we fucking started going on the production.
Even
calls.
When we were told about it, we were like, "Are the caster voice lines going to be in there?" And they were like, "We don't know yet." So it's, at some level, it's
great answer.
Yeah,
well, we'd already signed the contracts and shit at that point. So
I'm just theory crafting, right? Which is what we love to do here at Talking Counter, right? I don't care about the literally like would you be, I think the answer is definitely not. But just future wise, I think it's maybe interesting, especially if it happens that it's not insignificant the amount, right? Even if you get a small percentage and it turns out to be a couple of extra thousand, I mean, I think you definitely earn that. It's your voice that's in there that people are buying, right? Like they could just do the highlight without the casting and with the in-game sounds. right?
Yeah,
it's a separate
they also
product.
had
It's the
in-game
same thing.
footage
It's
where
the sa-
people from the audience are appearing in these clips too, on some of them as well, right? So, what
yeah,
about
but that that's like sort of the terms of agreement when you buy a ticket, for example. I don't think they have even less negotiating power than talent does.
Well, we
in
have
that
very
sense.
little negotiating power, as
I
we've
know,
learned
I know.
over the years. It feels like it's becoming less and less. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's an interesting conversation, but not one where I'd even know how to start. And it's one of those things where we're always beholden to the tournament organizer. As we know, like there's a lot of like politics that go into the hiring and stuff, and then who's doing what games and everything along those lines. And then everyone's negotiating their own rates, or duos negotiating their own rates and stuff like that. So there's different money for different people. There's a lot that goes into it. And I think that this conversation that we're having right now is one that, we sit there and we talk about the players not having a union. Well, the same thing for us in a way, right? Even though every single person in this space doing commentary or analyst work or hosting or stage hosting or whatever, they're competitors against one another. That's what kind of limits us from ever having a union and being able to set like a standard across the board. We kind of just have to do it on good faith and hope that people don't come in and go crazy with undercutting and everything. And it's like, okay, so what if one caster duo said, yeah, we'll take less percentage on the caster lines than another duo, then like they get playoff games. It just becomes this like crazy fucking thing.
Yeah, but it's a race to the bottom. I don't think we can't do it. I think we could definitely do it. It's just we are not organized enough, and no one really is taking initiative on that part. But I don't think it's...
I think it's the risk as well as initiative. I think like initiative is one thing, but the risk the associated with it is another, because like Jason and I were having a bit of a talk in the Discord the other day with some people about some talent related stuff, and we were kind of just saying that, yeah, like if you don't have any wiggle room with a TO. Like if you say, hey, this is our rate, and they go, no, it's not. Or they go, we want a discount. And you go, well, fuck, do I want to work the event, or do I want to get paid the rate that I think that I'm charging? And it's like, well, if it's too far below the rate, then maybe you'll say no. But if it's a major, you're more likely to say yes, because it's a major and everybody wants to work at the major. So you're kind of just getting like led around to this dog and pony show. And doing as you're told.
Yeah, but I think times are definitely changing. I think the more time passes, the easier it will become for us to do it. And I say that because, for example, Jason has a kid, I have a kid. I don't have a problem with as much missing an event because I get to spend more time home. Now I know that if you miss an event and suddenly you're not at events as much, maybe you won't get hired as much, and then it's a downward spiral from there. But also doing other projects, doing stuff like this, having other sources of income gives you a little bit more wiggle room in terms of, okay, if you're not going to hire me, then don't do it. And I think the key point for us being able to come together in any sort of a way is when you get the majority or a good amount of the people that are being hired for these tier 1 events be in that boat, where everyone would actually say, all right, if you're not going to agree to this sort of terms, then we won't do the event. And then everyone is fine with missing out on that paycheck, with not working the event, with letting someone else take the spot, because if enough people come together, then who's left out there isn't on the same tier.
This is where I think our opinion differs on this, Yanko, because I think like they will just replace all of us. Like I think we have light leverage. I don't think we have strong enough leverage to, push for anything grand. I think that like we are so disposable, it's not even funny. Like
I don't think so. I think you're underestimating yourself first and foremost.
I think
like,
that's
especially
true.
Especially the casters. Like, and I'm not saying we would come out and say double our rates now and fly us out first class and only
start a
5
picket
stars,
line.
only lobsters and fucking steaks, for catering. No, it would be small. It would be just like you said. There would have to be a standard. And then what they choose to do after that, like, so that helps us because there's no bullshitting like, oh yeah, we'll take less money if you let's do the final, or I'll take less money at this event for exposure and then I'll overcharge for other smaller events and something along those lines. But yeah, I don't think we're there yet, but a man can dream, Chad. Maybe one day.
Jason will lead the union one day.
Once he sobers up.
That's why I'm not talking. I'm keeping my cards close to the chest. I want that poker face. You guys
he's
are
already
the whole game.
He's already doing
podcast.
it, Chad. Behind the scenes, we're just not a part of it.
All right. Well, as long as he's pulling the strings, you know,
Listen,
the puppet
ESL,
master.
I'd like to be the one talent to make money off these caster lines. I know I was an analyst, but I'd like the talent lines.
Yeah, no, I've actually spoken to all the commentators, and what they said was, you should direct all the money to my bank details, and I will. I'll send them the equivalent.
They feel really bad that you're not hiring me as a caster, so they would like to donate most of their rewards for these.
They
caster
prefer
lines.
it that way for tax purposes.
Oh dear, but yeah, it's an interesting conversation, and I think that it's probably nothing's ever going to come of it.
I think working this conversation back to this classic doom and gloom. It's like fucking having Hooksy on the podcast.
It was great wasting 10 minutes of our lives discussing this thing that will never happen.
To bring it back mostly to the focusing on the actual clips themselves, I agree that they're kind of, I guess, underwhelming in a way. I haven't looked through all of them, but I don't know, like
500 of them.
like anything else, like I mean, the first time it's done, I imagine the second time would be significantly better. I would just be curious again, as Chad said, if this is going to be a constant thing, major to major, as like something that they kind of look to replace the stickers, or if this is just like a blast cool feature of Austin and it's not coming back.
Yeah, it would see how it progresses. Like I said,
it was a lot of work on both ends, on Blast's end and Valve's end.
Yeah, and if the people aren't appreciative of it, then I think Valve will just look to try something different, and that's fine too. I think, you know, trying new ideas is really cool. I do wonder why, like, because people are like, oh, make team gloves or make, you know, the team charms, right? I wonder why they don't do that. Does it feel like it'd be too repetitive? Like if you did that at every major, you couldn't do team gloves at every major? And then how would you even give out those gloves? Like, do people just get to buy them if they're a fan of the team? Like, is there a case? And then what else is in the case? If you're doing the charms, I guess the charms could just be all of the logos in a case.
I would assume they wouldn't want team gloves like year round. You know, I assume they wouldn't want to have that like team glove situation like constantly in Counter-Strike. You know what I mean? Because they've always
something we can erase, right? Yeah.
And they've always kind of said with skins they don't want to have any like corporate entities or companies making like themed skins and like themed things. That's always kind of been like a hold of theirs, which is why like Room on Fire, I know Anders wanted to do a Room on Fire skin back in the day, and that's why that was turned down.
But didn't they do some? Semler and Anders did
skins, but they weren't based on Room on Fire. They were just individual skins that they created and put out.
Okay, all right.
But it could be, I don't know, it could be like, you know how we had like the team sprays, like you could pick which team in the major you were supporting and change it. You could do that with gloves like during the span of the major. You could have like a 1 month period around the major where it was like you can use team gloves in the game.
Yeah, show off your
I don't know how valuable that would be if they're not going to be permanent, but you know, you could do something cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like for me, for all of us, we all played Counter-Strike before skins were even a thing, right? Yes. So the fact that like the marketplace is so big for it, there's so much of a draw for it, I think it's great. Like if people want to spend their money and they find it something interesting, that's great. That's awesome. Like choose to spend your money as you wish. And don't be upset that there's like a lack of it or there's too much of it or whatever. It's choice. Like this isn't a pay to win game. If you want to have these things, you can have them. If you don't want to have them, you don't want to have them. That's up to you completely. But for me, it's not necessary for me to play the game, right? Like this is one of the things that I see, and I may have even mentioned this in the last episode, but when I see all this conversation about, oh yeah, there's no content, they're not doing this, they're not doing that, the core game is the content. Like you getting in a server and learning a smoke or getting better with your team or getting better with your pre-fires or better with the movement or playing deathmatch so that your aim is more on point. That's the content. The replayability of Counter-Strike is the content. Getting better at Counter-Strike over time is the content. And if you want to go do something fun, go to the community browser, which I agree should be once you are in the game. You should be able to open it in the game, but you still can go out of your way to look for those things. So if you want to do the fun shit and giggle things, which is cool, everybody did. We played Fight Yard maps, we played Warcraft 3 mod, we played Rats. We did it all, right? Yeah, you can do those things. They exist. But I think that the content in Counter-Strike is the replayable nature of it. That's the reason that Dust 2 is still being played after 20 years. That's why Mirage is essentially the exact same map as it has been for 10 years. Like, the replayable nature of the game is the content. So thank you for coming for my TED talk.
Yeah, amen, brother. Jesus Christ, you just really went on a whole speech there. I'm ready to vote for you.
Nice.
Yeah, you would vote
just
for
like
anyone,
Trump.
Jace. But I don't know. That was also one of Graham's points. Why not make it a team charm? You know, if it's like, let's say, a player highlight from the team and just do it that way and some more extra income, because everyone shares the sticker money, right? From the pot, whoever is out of the 8 teams, you share it equally. So I don't know, 3D Max and NaVi or FaZe Clan would get the same amount of money, right? Even though obviously people are trying to get one team way more than the other. So I think having something individualistic, same way the players have their own autographs where you can really support your favorite player if you want and directly. I think that's nice also to have something for the orgs directly, right?
But look at the stickers.
And you guys made, but again, you shared that. So I think you guys.
Are you talking about direct purchase of a specific team?
Yeah, let's say Navi Charm or Navi Glove.
I don't think Valve would ever do that though.
Because
then the rich get richer. I think their whole model right now it allows for the rich to
spread the wealth.
Yeah, rising tides lift all boats or ships or catamarans or whatever thing, dinghies,
schooners.
Yeah, fucking kayaks, whatever you want, right? Floating devices,
paddleboards,
people in salty water. Right, it's all going up or down, right? Yeah. But I get both angles, but I just try and position myself and think, what would Valve do? And we know what Valve would do: not put those things in the game.
WWVD, it's my favorite. It's my favorite. I have.
It's that, and what would Red Eye do? Those are two of the two. That's before you go on broadcast, you got to check your microphone cable, like Jason didn't, and you got to say, what would Red Eye do? And it's got to be. I'm kidding, Jason. We're not on.
I have a very short. I have a short cable today. It's
mine
really
are in front of me.
It's fine. A lot of guys do.
Hey, that's what my name in this program right now is 3 inches enough?
3 inches enough. Yeah,
that's a great question.
Someone
said that in the Rogan podcast when we were there, Jason. Remember?
That's right. Someone did say that.
And then the married woman in front of us, she arced up, and Rogan he wasn't happy with that.
No,
she got a spray.
Yeah, she got a little riffraff going on in there. Yeah, Rogan shut that down quick.
I think he was embarrassed.
That was a moment as the husband where you kind of lean away a little bit.
I don't know this woman.
Yeah, she came here on her own. I just met her. It's
but she said you've been married for 20 years. Yeah, it's 20 years or something like that. Yeah, I guess that was an interesting time to be alive. Can I pivot?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'd like to get on a box of soap here for a moment.
Another one.
Well, because I just did HLTV Confirmed on Tuesday, and we did a lot of roster talk. And while doing prepping for that podcast and going in and looking at all the roster changes and maybe looking into some players a little bit more and stuff, and a lot of the names are new names like Grix.
Yes.
Or Makazi, or Kiyosuke, who he's not a new name, but yeah, he's of the newer generation. And I'm sitting there, and we're talking about all these rosters, and I'm having to ask these questions of does this make this team better? Does this mean this team can now beat Vitality? And I'm going,
I don't know.
In my head, why are we having this none of first of all, even if they were established Counter-Strike players, it's a new complexion of a roster. So then maybe I'd have a little bit more data to say, would this work or wouldn't this work? But with players that are untested at this level, going, is this going to work? I don't know. Are we going to nuke ourselves? Maybe. It's so hard to have conversations around new rosters that are coming together when the knowledge of the player, you can go and watch demos. You can go and look at them in Skybox Edge. You can check out their statistics on HLTV. You can go and watch some clips that they're in where they talk and you can hear the way they communicate in game or the attitude that they display. But at the end of the day, you're taking a fucking shot in the dark. You got no idea what's going to happen in this situation, especially with some of these newer names. And I just found that conversation it's a tough one to have. It's a tough conversation to have, and it almost feels pointless.
Well, I feel like the way to maybe approach the conversation, especially with some of these, as you mentioned, with the names that are really unknown, like Makazi and Grix, where we wouldn't have seen much of them, is to talk about it in the bigger picture of we're in that we got here quick to where teams are looking to sign younger, new talent to go for the home run.
More now than ever.
Yeah, than recycling the older players, bringing in experience. They're saying, let's see what the new guys can do. Let's see what the new guy can provide. And let's see if we have a diamond in the rough on our academy team, or if we pull one randomly out of Face It and he all of a sudden can shoot us up.
It's such a gamble for top tier Counter-Strike though, isn't it?
I'd say, the gamble for NaVi, I guess, but this is the whole point of having an in-house academy program, right? Is you have someone under your umbrella and you have all the information and all the data you need on how he likes to play, how he likes to approach things, what he's like as a person, because he's been within your academy system. So that would be the strength, at least of that from the NaVi side of things, where Blade's probably been able to kind of watch him a little bit on the side when he's not 100% focused on the main team, when he gets reports from the coach of the academy team, and then you get all that information and you can move him up. I would say the heroic one is more of the gamble of signing Grix, kind of. I'm not going to say out of nowhere, but obviously from a division.
This was Aurora, right?
Yeah,
So
hasn't played
Kenzie
this level.
and those guys.
But this is also Heroic's kind of MO, and like how they've decided to create their business as an esports organization is.
I don't mind it as much for a team like Heroic. Like,
I don't
think
either.
That,
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't feel as bad for a
Yeah.
team like Heroic. And I
Yeah.
feel like I'm being overly judgmental mainly of this Mikaze kid, even though I don't. Like, I sit there and I watch these VODs on YouTube, or there's a guy's YouTube channel that I really started getting into, which was Vladipard, or Vladipard CS2.
Yeah.
And I started watching him because it's a lot of the Russian players, and he's got like subtitles there for some of the things they're saying. And dude, I went on like a binge of watching Kiyosuke VODs on there, and it's like crack to me right now. This kid's like crosshair placement, his movement, like his time to kill. I'm just sitting there like wide-eyed. I'm like, inject more of this shit into my veins, man. Like if he's even half of that in the server, oh my fucking God. Like
I know.
But then why am I when I see this Mikaze guy, why am I not getting as hyped? Because I went and I looked, he's got good stats, he's good within NaVi Junior. I'm looking at some of his VODs. I would say mechanically maybe not as strong, but you can't all be as strong as a Kiyosuke or a Donk. But clearly he's good enough to get the call up. We just don't know for who.
I think subconsciously your brain has been primed to get hyped about Kiyosuke because there's been so much chatter around him and so much information. I think like on some level we're all ready to see like this kid be, I mean, hyped up as the next Donk, which we all know is like a crazy comparison to make. But either way, like the excitement, the readiness to be excited is there. Like we just want to actually see it so we can actually dig into that like excitement that's built up in our brain. Is my take.
I think also NaVi having experience from the Monacy situation, right? And him and Simple, well, Simple was on the roster, and then, you know, you're going to keep Simple. You sell off Monacy to G2, and then he turns out to be, you know, one of the world's best players, and, you know, how things went with Simple, obviously. So maybe they want to make sure that they at least give this guy a try, right?
Sure.
Like,
Yeah, that's fair.
They would have had to sell the roster regardless. I mean, they were not that they would have had to. It just makes sense to sell them because they're now ranked in the top 20.
I think it was top 30 or something.
Top 30, right? And there's orgs out there sniffing around, wanting to get maybe into CS. So you're getting a young roster that's ranked fairly high up, and giving them some tools, maybe if they need a roster change, you know, to get them to the next level, you can put yourself in a really good position. So now we're seeing how they're struggling. I want to add also that I wouldn't be surprised if they're trying to align the way the academy team plays to how the main team will play, right? So they're in academy, they're used to some of the concepts that the main squad uses as well.
Yeah.
That's the point of having an academy team, because you're more playing to develop than you're playing to win. And of course, winning helps you develop. And, you know, if you're not winning, chances are you're not developing much. But it's more about, we want to be able, if one of these guys is actually good in, let's say, 6 months, in a year, how long it takes, if he can reach that level, then he can come in, and a lot of the things that we're doing, he's already used to them.
Yeah.
In one way or another. Of course, tier 1 is a different beast, and you get punished easier, and people are better at reacting, but the core concepts you understand, and then it's just getting used to maybe the details and seeing what's different compared to, you know, tier 2 or 3 or wherever you were playing. So I think that's what they're doing it. In terms of who's he going to replace, it's pointing to JL, but I think it has to be either JL or
Emma, right? But
Alexi.
Banks said, or Alexi.
No, because
gonna
Banks does
in-game lead?
because Banks has an in on NaVi. So if he's saying it's not Tima, then it's not Tima, right? But he also didn't want to say who it is, so it's probably JL because he was at his wedding and didn't want to, you know, sort of spill the beans while he was there. But the other one, just to say who it might be, I think if it's Alexi, then Ima to in-game leader.
Now, how
Whoa.
much stock do you put in the JL Twitter bio profile change?
Apparently,
That's
it's been like
my
that for a
question.
while.
It's been
Apparently,
like
that for a while.
Okay.
Apparently.
All right, I've been lured. I've been trapped.
We brought it up on HL TV the other day, and like people in chat were immediately like, "It's been like that for a while." And someone was like, "I did way back Time Machine. It's been like that for a while." I'm like, okay, yeah, look, but I could see JL going into content creation. It
I
wouldn't
could too.
surprise me. So,
Yeah, me neither.
you know, that's not the craziest thing in the world. It's just if he has decided that his career is over already, right? Like he could always do it temporarily and try and come back. I think it's just harder to get back on the roller coaster. He's 25, so it's not like It's not like, it's over.
If Alexi's the one that changes though, like what would be the motivation for that? Like changing Alexi as your IGL? Like were you just not happy with the way he constituted the team? Is it not?
That would have to be it, wouldn't it?
Like it's not getting along with some of the players not believing in what he wants to call, what kind of style. Because he seems like an IGL that kind of be tailor made for how Blade likes to play the game.
Yeah, but I think I wouldn't say. I don't think he has a huge amount on influence of how they play. I think he has to follow Blade's approach, his playbook, his system, and of course he probably has his way of executing within that system and wanting to do things, and that's fine. Listen, I just said it because for me that's the other option, because you would say Ima if it weren't for the information that we allegedly have, or the alleged information that we actually have. I don't know. Whatever.
Either way.
But it could be that, and then you're seeing, these teams, some of the other ones, how much they're stacking on firepower, and maybe you're thinking, we just need a better player.
Well,
right?
that's the problem, right?
We just need
star
more.
in NaVi.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then you're thinking, all right, maybe this kid isn't going to be the star. He probably won't be immediately, but our average, skill level goes up in that sense, and maybe that's enough. And also, NaVi is one of those teams, we've been saying it almost throughout the season. It's very hard from the outside to pinpoint it, right? Like, because the losses that they've been having and everything, and even from the interviews with Blade, who gives great interviews and great answers, he's saying, there's not one guy to blame. You're just missing some details in key moments, breakdown in communication, right? And doesn't even have to be the same person, that makes these mistakes. And sometimes a guy just goes missing in a crucial moment. If I have to say it from the outside, the main reason feels like it's just they're not getting as much output from some of these guys as they did last year.
Yeah.
JL I've said it multiple times, behind Donk and Nico, he was the most impactful rifler last year. This year, he's probably not in the top 10, in that regard. Not even like just gross stats. And some of the other guys, so-and-so, but that's the problem. In the end, you need your players to step up in key moments, in big games, to be able to be a contender for trophies, and that just hasn't been the case for NaVi. A system, structure, it raises your floor. The players determine your ceiling.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. That's why, but this changed though. I just was having a quick look based off what you were saying about the academy team, probably priming you to join the main team. And it looks like the map pool was pretty aligned. Obviously, NaVi only started recently bringing in Train, and they were going for different bans based off of the teams that they were facing. So the academy team didn't play any Train, but they played the rest of the map pool, right? So kind of now NaVi feels like they're doing a 7 map pool and then banning away what they think the biggest strength is or their weakness is going to be against certain teams. But then this is where I start to question it, because NaVi for me is meant to be, one of the top organizations in Counter-Strike, right? They're one of those names that fit in the elite level alongside like a FaZe, obviously a Vitality's up there. Like mouz are not meant to be one of those guys, but they're hanging with the big boys. Spirit, I guess regionally we can say now that they're the powerhouse for Russia. But with a lot of these teams, NaVi's meant to be one of those names that I look at being at the top, and they add this guy, and he definitely has potential, right? I don't want people to get it twisted, but you make this change. We're saying that there's no star, and then maybe I should extrapolate and go, okay, so who could they sign that's a big enough star? And then you're going to struggle to find anybody, really.
Is there a world where they're thinking maybe that this kind of a change might have someone like JL step up to having more of a star role? Where you kind of say, maybe we see how these guys progress, but JL's kind of going to be put in the position to be our star moving into the future? Or maybe not JL, maybe someone else, but JL seems like the most likely one to me.
I don't know. I still think they're just going to be a team that's like heavily system-based, right? So then it's going to have to be the output of the players within the system. So I don't think that's going to change. Like Blade's not just going to go, all right, guys, I want everybody to be more individualistic now, and we're just going to play like more default.
Okay, here's a question. Let's say system Counter-Strike struggles in the second half of the year as well. Do you think Blade has it in him to break out of that? Do you think Blade has it in him to say, my shit isn't working anymore? We need to stop playing so heavily system based?
I don't think so, because it's not about his shit, it's about his players. His shit has worked.
So, yeah.
And I don't think, let's say, the meta has surpassed that sort of a system. For me, that's the ultimate way to play. And I think that's what you see, for example, Vitality do as well, although they break out of the norm a little bit more. They have a little bit more randomness to their game on
matchup
purpose.
specific, they always add something different each matchup, like it feels like. To Yanko's point.
That as well. So I don't think that style is outdated or anything. I think if you wanted to, that's probably the modern Astralis sort of a way to play, where it's more defaulty, but within everyone knows their assignments, and it's up to everyone to just sort of step up when they need to, right? It's not like, oh yeah, we're gonna just pray that, I don't know, somehow Wonderful gets a triple entry out of nowhere without any setup, right? Like when guys go for plays, it's thought out in that system. It's like, okay, we're gonna throw the smoke, this part's gonna be covered up by a smoke, there's gonna be a molly here, we're gonna flash, this position is gonna be blind, and you need to hard clear that or whatever. Like that's the way of playing it. It's not the same as a FaZe, who does leave things a little bit more open to players to just feel the moment and sort of go for a play,
read
right?
a situation.
And not as, I don't want to say guessy, because it's educated guesses where you would use a good amount of utility sort of to draw attention to one area of the map, and then one guy on the other side can sort of just search and maybe create a timing for him to sneak into a forward position. Then once you fall back to the other side with the group, he's able to cut someone off, he's in a great lurk spot or something along those lines. In terms of how you set it up.
What do you guys think about this, though, as the evolution of this conversation? Do you think that they're only changing one player?
Yes.
I think they're change. I think they want to change two. I think a lot of it would depend on who they can get. Is my feeling around NaVi is they want to change two, but I think the people they can get are going to determine whether they can actually pull it off.
Which is crazy. Does that mean there's no players on the market, or NaVi don't have a big enough pool?
And just one more thing to mention, like, we haven't talked about Bit at all. I mentioned JL and his drop-off. Bit's drop-off is also monumental, it feels like, in terms of impact. I don't know if the stats back it up, but for me, just like
their stats are all so close this year. Like,
you mean compared to last year, or between the players?
Between the players. Like, it's like 0.01 between the top guy and the fourth guy. I think there's obviously a bigger drop-off for Alexi, but between the other four of them, it's 0.09, 1.09, 1.08, like something along those lines.
It felt Bit was a big wall on CT and just able to find so many openings on T side and impact. What's up, Jason?
I have the LAN stats for 2025. JL, EMA, Bit, Wonderful are all 1.06.
Okay, so maybe I just did overall.
They're all of I just did LAN 2025 and player stats, both sides. It's four players at 1.06 and Alexi at 0.9.
Yeah, so if you do overall with online, this is where it goes 1.09 for Bit, 1.08 for JL, 1.07 for Wonderful, and 1.06 for Emma. No joke. Like, yeah.
It's the system this season was just happily mediocre across the board.
Yeah, like that, for me, they're like a gatekeeper team to the playoffs. Right?
Yeah.
Like they probably should make most playoffs, especially 8-team playoffs. But other than that, like NaVi doesn't excite me a lot anymore.
Yeah.
Well, it never really did. I think them just winning a major, because think about the way that they won the major. They lost more rounds than they won, and then they went on like a spree where the individuals stood out and were being counted because they had a confidence about them. But now they've returned to the mean, which is. Yeah. This
is why I thought it was so cool to be able to like look back last year and just appreciate the run from NaVi, because you just had, for whatever reason, like that 6-month stretch where that system Counter-Strike actually just activated all of those individuals to hit their peaks.
You're calling it an era?
Yeah. It was a quick era, but we're always gonna have it. We're always gonna look back and.
It was the 3-inch era.
Yeah. It's one of the biggest eras I know.
I know that. Were you done? Sorry, Jason.
Yeah, I was going to move us on, but if you got another comment, go for it.
No, I think just to wrap, it does. I like whichever of you position it. It's like, well, if they're missing a star, why didn't they go out and get a big name?
Yeah, but then who do they get?
Also, I think though, I think too, if you're gonna focus on like a system Counter-Strike, it's gonna be really hard to just go out and get a star. Like, especially if you just want to go out and get like a fragger, it's like those guys generally don't.
Have to be a specific type of a player.
Yeah. This is kind of in the same vein, but sort of moving us on. But in terms of like, I guess unknown roster changes or lesser known roster changes, what do you think about? And this is kind of down Chad's vein, where we're not going to have a whole lot of information, but the mouz NXT coach is getting a chance at the big leagues, stepping into Heroic.
Well, so I looked at his tenure. He was there for a good couple of years,
career,
since
yeah.
like 2022. So you look at the players that went through the academy when he was there. You're talking your Exertions, your PRs, your Jimmies, right? Like all the names that you know and love in a mouz jersey or a mouz alumni. So he's had definitely seen a lot of the younger talent come through, which is probably very good that the team that he gets to now coach is Heroic,
Yes.
which is younger faces still. Obviously, LNZ, he's the one that we've known for the longest of that roster right now. Nilo, there was a lot of hype around him, but then there was the benching at the start of the year. I think Tanir is probably the breakout player of the year so far.
Yeah.
Maybe alongside of Zwei, but Zwei was only really on our radar at he was on the radar before, but he did his best work at the first two stages of the major, whereas Tanir had some like good moments throughout the season. Youngster, and then Grix is the other Belarusian kid joining in, and he's had some good stats on the AWP, and it feels like AWPers are hard to find at the moment, good ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, overall with this one, I just think it's probably a good match. Like the coach for that level, the players aren't going to like ego him or anything. Right, he's in with a good set of guys, and he knows that they're going to be young and hungry. So it's a good promotion from mouz NXT to Heroic, which always seems like a fun org to be a part of.
Yeah, mouz NXT not only losing players, now losing coaches as well.
Yeah. mouz NXT's been in trouble lately, haven't they? They haven't really had a good roster in a while.
Dude, it feels like they lose a player every month and a half. Like
It's got to be hard to put a team together on that level, though. It's got to be so hard to put a team together on that level.
In
I've
what
never
way?
tried. Maybe I could play.
Like the mouz NXT, like the semi-pro amateur tier 2.5 level. I feel like it's got to be really, really tough to put together a good team with people who are going to be dedicated. Maybe I'm overestimating. I think it would be.
I think there's so many hungry kids in FaZe that would love an opportunity to play in something like that for sure.
I think times have changed, Jason.
Yeah, that's fair. Maybe maybe in Europe it's a lot easier because the scene's a little bit deeper. maybe I'm
I
just
would
bringing
say
some
it's
NA
very
bias,
different here compared to NA.
Can we just go on a tangent just quickly? Sorry, I want to derail.
Derail.
So I was just talking with Henry before jumping on with you lads, and he said some of the older boys that he used to play Source with have been back in the server, right? So they're all around Henry's age, maybe a little bit older, like Wilzo, Hudsg, those type of guys. Maybe they ring some bells for the Source people back in the day. And Henry's been in the server with them. He said they've been playing for like a week. But we came to the end and we said, why is there no boomer tournaments? Why are there no tournaments for like 35-year-old plus, right? Because Henry can get a UK team. I've got Justin and Aaron and Yam in Europe. I can get an Australian team going. We'll fly Jason over.
I can get a whole team over here. Yeah.
Yanko can bring some of the old guys out of retirement.
Kassad.
Yeah, you can have Emmy as well. Is he still playing? I'm sure Emmy's still fucking playing. Emmy's always playing, isn't he?
You got Shev? You got
He
Shev
was
in
benched
there?
recently. I have Shev. Yes, I can.
Emmy's only 31. I don't know if you
get
have
a couple
Emmy,
of
actually.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
then
don't
the
have
Swedes,
35 plus.
Oh,
Shev
Forrest-
isn't 35.
Forrest
I'm not
got right for
35.
Flaren, it could
Chad.
be crazy.
Well, don't know about 50. There's heaps of them that are retired, right? Like Olaf, Get Right.
Why are you doing 50 dirty like that?
He's in America. He doesn't even play. What are you talking about?
He's on my team. I
Could
want
be on Jason's team.
Jeez, I thought you were trying to put it together like you, Sean Gares, nothing.
Me, Sean, Jordan. I'll get Stewie's. He's like 26.
Stewie's a bit young.
Yeah,
You can have Freakazoid.
Freakazoid's in there.
You can have
Flom.
Skadoodle.
Flom will bring the viewership numbers.
Yeah, so if someone listening, start a Boomer League in the tournament break, which won't exist next year, but do it anyway, and we'll be out there. We'll be in the servers. We'll be training hard. We'll be there, ready to go.
Yeah,
you know?
Rocky montages.
Hopefully Justin's playing, so I'll need other Australians, but we can work it out. We can work it out.
Bring
What's
Havoc
happening
back.
with Justin? Did he get any offers? Why is he not on a team now? Why didn't he go to NaVi?
That's a great question. Why didn't Justin go to NaVi?
They need some veterancy over there.
Yeah, that's
Some
definitely
star
what they
power.
need. I don't know what Justin's doing, man. Right now, he's playing Face It. He's in Europe. He's still playing Counter-Strike. So we'll see what happens at the end of the tournament break where Justin ends up, or if he doesn't end up anywhere. Who knows? Anything's possible, and nothing at the same time.
Anything's
Boy,
possible.
I need to quickly go grab some water. I'll be right back, like fucking 30 seconds. Keep talking.
Yeah.
All right. Yanko, you see this shit? Did you see North America is healing? It's
It
healing.
is?
Yeah, yeah.
How?
We
Because
got.
Stan got benched again?
Well, I wasn't going to go there yet. That was maybe going to be the closer to this particular segment. We got Tens is streaming. Nate Shot is streaming. The whole scene is picking back up. No, in real talk though, Sentinel saying they want to enter Counter-Strike in North America. Hastros and Envy wants to come back in. So once again, after a North American major, we're getting a little bit of interest from some of the money people in the organizations about coming back into Counter-Strike.
I think it was very telling because it was at the same time as something else or close to COD as well as Valorant or something. It is just the ultimate first-person shooter, you know, like there's nothing like Counter-Strike in terms of the popularity, the energy, the, you know, viewing experience, and it's something that, you know, these other games just can't match. It's as simple as that, right? And I think because the major was in NA and you saw how the crowd was and how incredible the atmosphere was, it reminded them of, actually, you know, this is probably where we could sell something and make a team and, like, you know, sort of in the end make money in this game, especially with the majors and with the NA region struggling and whatnot. So it would be cool to get some of those big ores back in again, because ultimately it does drive up the talent in the region too, especially, I mean, if they even want to get local talent and get NA teams, right? Because all of a sudden there's more opportunities in the region. Maybe it brings back some of the guys who switched over to Valorant and whatnot. Maybe it just gets more people.
Oh, they coming back, baby. Hat in hand.
To step up in terms of the professionalism, because, you know, we saw Donk and the talk about the Face It in NA and just the level of I don't even want to say professionalism, because that's not just, your approach is so backwards, right? Like, people don't even want to necessarily try. It's like, why would I try? It's just a pug. Man, I can
you've
tell you,
activated my trap card there, Yanko.
Yeah.
Well, because what you're talking about is why I think having these bigger orgs come back into Counter-Strike in North America is a bad thing. The players aren't going to change the way that they approach the game. And I think having 100 Thieves come in to try and be part of a major cycle just to earn stickers and not actually invest in the region properly, have some shit team that's put together and then die and then leave Counter-Strike again after inflating the salaries, I think it's bad. I don't think that's good for the region. I think that's terrible for the region.
Yeah, I agree that particular instance is terrible for the region. And on some level,
Sentinels, 100 Thieves, and Envy are all going to do that.
Yeah, that's part of this conversation. Is I know, because I mean, I saw Hastro in Austin, and I spoke to him a little bit on Twitter a while back when he kind of announced earlier that he was interested in CS again, and it was like, bro, if you're gonna come in, like, please, like, just do it smart. Like, don't come in for like a year and burn whatever you're bringing in, burn your investment and dip again. Like, actually come in and be here for the long haul. You know, like,
these are all part of the VC money generation, Jason. That's why I have no faith.
Yeah,
or belief
but I
in what
think
most
that's gone now.
VC money's been burnt out, so I'm hoping that things are a little bit better, and I'm hoping that, you know, if you made those mistakes in the past as Envy or as 100 Thieves and it burned you to the point you had to leave the game, I hope you come back in with a refreshed look at the situation. Now, I don't know if 100 Thieves is actually looking at getting back in. All I've seen is Nadeshot streaming. I don't think they are either. I'm not a huge fan of watching Nadeshot come in and just drop $30,000 on cases and having
I enjoyed.
Dude, I fucking hate that shit. I'm like, if you're like, come on, like,
it's his money.
I know. I'm just being a Counter-Strike elitist with this one, where I'm like, play the fucking game. Like, what are you doing coming in and gambling cases? Like, I hate that shit. Like,
out of all the things he's done in Counter-Strike, that's my favorite thing.
That can't be your connection to the game, is just coming in and wasting money on cases.
They had cool jerseys. They did have cool jerseys.
I think, though, the problem is how they handle their CS division. Like, I mean, that's why they didn't have much success before. So this time around, I mean, FlyQuest is a North American organization, and they're trying to do things the right way. You know, like, they're trying to improve step by step. They're doing boot camps in Europe and everything. And the talent pool for them from the Oceanic region, I mean, was limited. So
FlyQuest is one of the rare orgs that have, like, actual esports people, though, making the decisions too, I think, which is why they're a little bit smarter about things.
Well, maybe it's something that these other orgs should try and copy in some way if they want to come back. Nice. If they want to come back into
do the EG model, Yanko,
into CS, especially because now with the circuit, it's like, without results, you can't just buy your way into leagues anymore and into anything. Pretty much.
Dude, they're all partnership Andes, though. All the orgs that we talk about are all partnership Andes.
Yeah, because everything is franchised over there in NA.
Hello, Rito. Please give me partnership. I give you millions of dollars, and I get nothing in return. Oh, here you go. This is a great business model. Look at Riot go.
Better than Overwatch, at least.
Same shit, different fucking name of company,
shit,
isn't it?
More money.
For the amount of people complain about Counter-Strike, Valve seem to have it figured the fuck out.
Oh, man.
Yeah. That's why, I mean, both of these orgs, like, they should just pick up Stan immediately. Like,
Yeah, I
if you
know.
want to,
If you're
they can-
actually serious, yep.
I know, like that before with Sentinels, Stewie was tied like to them coming back and sort of potentially like being the face of their CS division and coming into CS, but obviously that hasn't happened yet. So
I guess this is I guess kind of the trap. If you're, let's just say hypothetically, we're like the GMs of Sentinels looking to get back in. Are you like Stan is an easy one to pick up as an IGL, especially because he was just released and just had good results. But around Stan, are you bringing in guys like Stewie, Rush, seeing if you can lure Automatic back, or are you going for mostly young new players? Like, are you trying to go for any of the experienced guys who are sort of retired right now, sort of like just in limbo?
not at
Any
all.
of them?
Definitely not.
No.
Okay. All new unnamed NA players and then Stan.
Well, yeah, I mean unnamed, yeah, from the lower, whatever you can find, whatever you can scrounge up. It's not going to be great, but that's why Stan, I think he has proven himself building things from the ground up, right? And even Wildcard, in a sense, was that sort of project. I mean, who thought Sonic could be on a tier 1/tier 2 team again, right? And they've had some really
good
great
output,
success, especially in Shanghai. Played good brand of Counter-Strike, I think, especially considering the players that they've had and how much firepower they had. So if you're either Envy or Sentinels and you want an NA team, just get Stan, and then he can give you a lot of input in terms of coach and who he can get together with. Adren is available, I think, at the time, because Nouns with
as
their whole
Cole doesn't sign him anytime soon.
crowdfunding and everything like didn't really work out for them. They just didn't think it was a good investment, so that feels like it fizzled out a little bit. And he can tell you who's available maybe as a free agent and who maybe you can try and buy out a player or two, so that you have a good base, and then can start working your way up through the qualifiers. It's going to be a struggle. It's not going to be easy, but obviously you coming into like that out of nowhere, if you're not buying a core of a roster, the first season you have to forget about anything. Like, you're just hoping after the first season you can be, in the top 24. Actually, that's not even viable. But in the top 32 for the Blast Bounty, and maybe some of the online cups, or maybe the closed qualifiers for some events, so you get into shooting distance.
You might be able.
Yeah.
Graham would know this
Shanko.
better, obviously, but I think in NA you might be able to actually shoot up the ranks a lot quicker than you would over in Europe, just by the fact that we don't have as many of events. So a lot of them have a lot of more VRS points. Like, you might be able to climb in through the America side pretty quickly.
Well, that depends on what events you're trying to get invited to. You mean if you're trying to like run up the ladder so that
If you're a brand new team and you're just starting from the ground up,
but you want to get invited to the best events like Cologne and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'll have an easier time. I think that America is the worst off region is Asia, right? Like the worst off is Oceania. Then I think, rest of Asia, then Oceania, then China and Mongolia, because they both try and run lands for their teams. Then it goes North America. Then it goes South America. Then it goes Europe. Right, that's probably the order of like hierarchy of regions and events. I think something that, if there's a bunch of orgs that are interested in getting involved in Counter-Strike, let's say Sentinels are, Envious are, maybe there's one more in the mix right there. What they should all do is, you don't want to come in, right, and just break the budget, spending too much on players and overvaluing names and trying to buy a core and trying to do all this stuff, because really it's not out there. Like, that, those options aren't out there for you. What you should do is invest in some of the younger, more talented guys. Try and build, like, if all three teams build a roster, that's 3 new professional teams within the States going on with funding and structure. Obviously, don't pay them crazy money. Pay them actually. I'm not going to say pay them fuck all. Pay them some worth, right? Pay them like $2,500 a month. Like, that's more than enough money, right, to be playing pro Counter-Strike. And then go and talk to Graham at Complexity and say, hey, with all of like these established orgs who are paying salaries, can we put on some events together in North America and just be getting reps and tournaments and stuff and do all that kind of stuff? And because they already do that one with Flom, right? Complexity.
Yeah, but I mean, again, I don't know how much. I don't know if Flom's things. I don't think they do, because they're mostly online cups. That's
fine. But just use the popularity of these brands to try and draw the eyes to Counter-Strike, instead of, unless you want to spend tens of millions of dollars to come in and try and put together a Counter-Strike team and pay absurd salaries. That's the only way you're getting in at the top floor. How else are
yeah.
you getting into the top floor?
Well, I think it's kind of a funny thing. I feel like in the States right now, like there's like a window of opportunity for TOs to step up because there's going to start being demand for a lot
It's
more.
Fragadelphia, right?
A lot more events. There's Fragadelphia. There's obviously the Eagle Masters, which Dust 2 and HLTV run. There's the Flom and Complexity League that they're putting on. And I think there was one more that was just like recently kind of announced, something that popped up. I can't remember the name. They DM me on Twitter.
Jason.
Give me a second.
Come on now.
I know. I feel bad.
This is padding. He's doing a bit of padding right now.
It's the worst. It is NACS. Yeah, there's like an NACS land coming about. Little project.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't know. There's some things. There's like an opportunity that it feels like the NA scene is starting to take the steps towards realizing that if we're going to fix this shit, it's only going to happen from within.
That's right. Brazil has a lot of lands going on, right?
Yeah.
They have a lot of lands and events going on in South America, or at least Brazil specifically. And I feel like North America is going to need the same going on for it to thrive. Now, obviously, it's different from the land events that we used to go to back in the day. We're talking 20 years ago, 15 years ago. There's going to have to be a different level to it, sure. But then I ask the question is, well, what's the want? Because one of the bigger issues is we learned from Graham, the gambling sponsors. You can't have sports betting sponsors in America because that's always going to hold back Counter-Strike teams because one of the biggest parts of the industry is gambling sponsors, whether people like it or not. And look, again, I'm not for random websites that don't validate people's IDs and stuff. I also not for like case opening shit. I think that, you know, if you're doing sports betting, that's fine. I think sports betting, as long as it's regulated, is fine. That's been in part of the Australian culture. I've grown up around it, so I think that's okay.
And there's some legal sports betting here. I'm not sure how that works in terms of sponsoring events, though. I couldn't really speak to that one. But I mean, certainly, like the situation is there with like skin websites as well, especially for like these smaller TOs that are trying to build up. Those are like the stepping stone or partner that you need to have, or else you just don't have any money coming in. It's a weird thing because I mean I know like there's like a. I don't know. It's got to be tough right now for TOs to find that stuff. I guess we've kind of attacked this in a roundabout way, but if we shift this towards specifically focusing on Wildcard and the decision to remove Stanislaw and phzy, is anyone else scratching their head at this one?
Well, Peeping is apparently rumored as the player that they were going to. I know. It's a funny name. He was rumored to potentially be joining Wildcard, right? And I believe he's an AWPer. So if he joins, then obviously that makes sense for the phzy thing. But then what I saw an article came out said that Wildcard was looking at Brazilian players or something along those lines. Actually, I said he's an AWPer. I'll have a look right now. Maybe he's not an AWPer. No, he does have. He has fuck all AWP kills, so never mind. He can't be an AWPer with 3%.
Maybe it's
AWP
a Brazilian AWPer. Maybe they're getting
from that who's the in-game lead.
Susp.
What? He's not an in-game leader. He's an aggressive rifler.
Well, is okay. Sonic. Take your pick, Sonic, Jeba. Which one you wanted the three remaining players on?
Yeah, you're right. I don't know. It's such a wild move. So I wonder what they're unhappy with. Why they've gone for that change. I don't know.
And Stanislaw called it devastating. And like heartbreaking. Like the verbiage used by Stanislaw was like a shocked, you know?
Well, here's a question on this because the from his representation, right? They came out saying Stan was kind of seeing what his options were to in-game lead, to coach, to go overseas, right? Like they came out and they said like there was all these options for Stan. So what came first? Was it the chicken or the egg? Was he already known at that point that he was going to get cut from the team, or
I think
did he get cut after that?
I took that as him being surprised that probably conversations happened at the major and probably surprised that the decision went this way. And I think the entire idea of saying I'm open to offers of coaching and IGLing around, I think that's just like to get a wide net and see what your options are.
So you think he was already cut before they made the comment? Like the tweet out there of, hey, Stan's seeing what his options are?
He had to have. Oh, actually, that part.
I don't know.
I don't know either now. That is
Does
a
it
tough
matter?
one. I guess it doesn't at the end of the day.
Well, because if he made it, right? Because again, I don't know. Let's say that his.
I mean,
his
he had to have had an indication it was coming. If your representation is tweeting that out before you officially get cut, you have to know internally.
But what if he wanted to leave? Then why would it be devastating? Why would he say it's devastating after? So it doesn't line up. Like
and I mean, I don't see a world in which he'd want to leave after he spent like 2 years, kind of, or even more than that, I guess, with Jeba, like working with him directly one-on-one. They had like a little bit of a duo thing going on where that felt like those guys working together was going to go on for a while.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a mystery to me.
It is. It's crazy.
It sounds like the mouz Shue situation in a way, right? Like where the org and the IGL had different visions of how to move forward, how to improve, how to get to the next level, and just the org decided to go a different way. I'm not saying it's going to work out for Wildcard the same way it did for mouz, but I think we'll wait to see. I think, again, it's great for some of these other orgs if they're looking for an upgrade or if they're looking to come into the scene. But for Wildcard, it feels like it's going to be hard to replace.
It's also hard for Stan to go anywhere as well. I can't think of a fit for Stan outside of something that's rebuilding another project.
If I'm Stan, or actually I should say it like this. I guess if I'm Liquid, I'm setting up a call with Stanislaw and Shuhei right now.
Huh?
For him to coach? What?
Yeah, for him to coach. I'm setting up a call and seeing if that'd be interesting to Stan, and if him and Shuhei can share some philosophies and some thoughts, and if they seem to, get some momentum and working together, I think that would be a fit.
No way, because you can't. Your first job as a coach, if you're Stan, can't be Team Liquid. Like,
why?
You need way more. I think you need more experience as a coach to be able to go into that team, especially with guys like Twists in there, right, and then some high-profile names. Like, if you need to sort of know how to handle a situation in an environment like that.
As someone who stepped into Liquid as their first coaching job, I 100% agree with you. But I would say Stanislaw, I think, is someone that I think I could look at and have some of those worries assuaged with the kind of temperament and the kind of person that he is and the kind of like stature that he has. I think he could be a very good presence, like in terms of the mentality for that team. Now you'd have to, that's why I want the conversation with Shuhei. Does he have enough grasp of the details and the understanding of the game to work and provide some value in terms of the in-game stuff as well? But I think as a leadership figure, I think Stanislaw I wouldn't be as concerned about that with Stanislaw than I would be with other players or other people stepping in.
Could we expand on this?
Yeah.
Could we look at Liquid a little bit more, like Stan in the picture or not in the picture? That's really not to my point right now. If you look at the Liquid roster right now, NAF's obviously the biggest weak point. So let's say that they look to replace NAF and they want a new anchor. And let's say
I was just about to say, like, we heard nothing from that from Liquid. Yeah.
Nothing yet.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they're seeing what their options are, right? They still have JKS on the bench, right? So, let's say that they get an anchor to replace NAF that has a higher output statistically. Does that solve Liquid's problems? Because their T-sides are not very good, I don't think.
I'm not sure. I think first and foremost, they need a coach. Like, they need someone to take the reins and set up the hierarchy.
What type of a coach?
Like Stanislaw.
Not like Stanislaw.
Let him down easy, Yanko. Let him down easy.
To be honest, I'm trying to think of who is available, really, but
I know one.
I think even someone like Taz wouldn't be the worst option.
Okay.
Because I think the experience that he's gotten with G2 in terms of dealing with star players and, different sort of IGLs and being with a high-profile organization, I think that's definitely helpful because he will need all of those things. Whoever goes to Team Liquid will need all of those things. Another option is just go back to Adren for like the third or fourth time.
No, you can't go back to Adren. Get me the fuck out. Get me off that rod.
He was the coach when they won the Intel Grand Slam, Jason. Is all I'm saying.
That's true.
Okay.
I feel
Who
like
would you get, Jason?
I don't know. I actually don't know.
Stanislaw.
You sounded like you had a name outside of Stanislaw.
No, that was the one I had. I was I was continuing to build upon the joke.
You were just talking shit for no reason.
It was going to get funnier as it went, but you guys kind of ruined the punchline.
Sorry, Jason. Won't happen again, I promise. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird with Liquid. I feel like their individuals, outside of NAF, like on their CT sides, are all really strong. They can all deliver like a multi-kill when necessary, right? If they had I think their CT sides, it's just their T side. I feel even with Nerds in the mix and Shuey, I guess, to help take space, it still doesn't feel like they have that like aggressive rifler that's necessary for the team. Just don't have that player. I could name them for all the other teams. Like you go from the top, Flamesy, Donk, Exertion, right? You could go down the list of the successful teams.
Isn't this what Nerds is supposed to be, though? Is your kind of aggressive rifler?
But I don't think he was ever of that same profile. Like, he likes to be aggressive, but he's the type of aggressive where he becomes like the late lurk in the round. Like, he'll take the space, but now he's got red room control, and you guys have to play first somewhere else, which is fine if he gets the jewels. If he doesn't get the jewels, then he's like playing late into the round, and other people are entering into scenarios, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because you have Nerds and Twists, and I mean, Shuhei's an IGL that doesn't shy away from fights, doesn't shy away from being aggressive and taking space either, I feel. You have
I agree.
I don't know. It's hard to answer the question just because I feel like we've only seen one real game out of this Liquid roster.
Yeah.
That's
fair
mouz
too.
series, you know? So it's like, and I'm with you with the NAF thing. You know, someone on the T side who could make things happen more. I think NAF lost a lot of confidence, obviously, through this stretch where he's been playing terrible. So I think on the T side, he was less motivated and less kind of thinking, where am I going to step into my next fight? What's the next play I can make? He was probably more the mindset of don't fuck this up. Don't do something stupid. Like wait for the good fight because you can't kill anything.
At that point, you need to be replaced.
Yeah, I think
if that's your mentality in a professional game of Counter-Strike, then you need some time off, right? You need some time away from the game.
Right, and then that's the conversation that Liquid probably has been having since their major run ended is, are we giving NAF time to work out of this and saying this is a slump that he's going to get out of, or are we making the change now and pulling the trigger?
Yeah.
And I don't think, last I spoke with Liquid at the major, they hadn't made that determination yet. That decision hadn't been made yet.
Yeah, well, let's say that, like, so if Justin's still on the bench and they want to bring Justin back, because now the way the rules are changed, it doesn't matter where NAF's from anymore anyway. It doesn't, like, this is no longer part of the conversation.
That would be the best test case for him, if JKS is willing to step back in for an event or two to start the year and say, you know, is it worth this?
Dude, if I'm Justin, there's no way in the world I'd go back in for Liquid. Double my salary, maybe. Like, no way in the world. Could you imagine getting benched? Getting benched, the reason that you get benched is you're performing better than NAF. The reason you get benched is because of the regional thing. You then go into the major, they fail. They don't say anything about you at all. You're just still on the bench. Like, people just assume that you're a shit player and a shit teammate because the org says nothing about you. Why would you go back? Why would you go back?
Because if you want to get to another team and you show that you can play well within the team and then you raise your
stock. Just go play for FlyQuest. Like, I know it's not a top team in the world, but it'd be more fun. I'll tell you that much.
I'm with you. I think that's probably the best move for JKS, but you would know his motivations better. But if you want to stick to like a tier 1 competitive team, you know, there's a difference. Would you swallow your pride to fight for trophies?
If it was the G2 roster, yes. But for this roster, no.
Okay.
I don't think this roster's got it. I don't think JKS rejoining that team fixes their problems.
No, probably not.
What do you think does?
An aggressive rifle, like an actual aggressive rifler, not someone who thinks they're an aggressive rifler, like someone who's actually an exertion. And then you make Nerds and you make like Twists play more anchor spots, right? Like you change it up. Obviously, exertion and Shui's not going to work. That's a bad example in terms of the players on the team. But just the player profile, like an actual aggressive rifler, like someone who's really happy to do those type of things.
Loves to get stuck into it.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I think. Because that was the whole thing that Nero was pointing out with Liquid for the longest time. It was like there's too many passive players. Like it was like JKS, NAF, and Twists, and it was like, where's the aggression in this team coming from? Right? Like it was just Yakinda, remember? And they'd use Yakinda aggressive everywhere. And whenever they were doing anything, he would be there as the point man on their CT sides for aggressive maneuvers or whatever. And then you add Nerds in. I didn't change the profile of the team much. They just replaced Yakinda for Nerds. That was it, right? So. Now Shui coming in, that's obviously slightly different, and I agree with your sentiment, Jason, that he likes to take space and get stuck in too. But again, we haven't seen enough. Like they played a couple of events, but it was only with the short addition of Shui. He hasn't had a lot of time with the team, so the jury's not out completely. Like let's say that they just stick with NAF. NAF can get his motivation back or get his feet back on the ground and still know that he has output as a player. Because I think NAF's a nice guy. I think he's a very good player as well. I just think right now he doesn't have confidence in his output in the server. That's the biggest thing.
He's on the struggle bus right now for sure.
So, but if he can regain that, right? I don't know how he regains that. If he thinks it's a positional thing, I got words for him. He needs to go and look at players who play his positions that he has in this team and see how they get value from their positions. That's what he needs to do.
I think if it's a positional thing, I think it's a bigger issue because that's a mentality situation. Like that's a mentality situation of not like fully accepting that these are the spots you're going to be in. Do it the best you can. You're a professional. Like
but I think like That's what I'm saying. Watch the players who play these spots and see how they get value. Do they get set up more? Do they have moves? Okay, well then you need to bring those moves. You need to say, hey, I need you to do this for me, or hey, I want to do this play. Yeah. And then you giving those suggestions to your in-game leader is great. Your in-game leader is going to love it. It's going to, I have an extra move. I have an extra thing that we can do on an extremity or this or that.
That
right?
sounds like the problem with them is like all the other guys have that already. Like all the other guys are asking for shit. So he kind of has to be either
shoveling shit. Yeah.
Yeah, and either be the facilitator for the plays of others or just chill because there's always someone higher up in terms of priority that gets that. And ultimately it comes down to, well, at some point maybe the part of the map where he plays is where a play should be made. Also because, you know, if you're watching Team Liquid and, you know, well, NAF is never going to go for anything early, for example, right? Like that really alleviates a lot of the pressure and helps you focus on the areas where they do try to make plays and are aggressive early on. So
for sure.
Maybe that's some variety they would need to add, or maybe that needs to change for them. They definitely need a coach.
Yeah, I don't hate the Taz suggestion.
Stico?
As a content creator, sure.
I think like somebody like
as
Taz,
a guest for our show. What did you try to segue, Jason?
He likes names with an S. Stanislaw, Stico.
Hey, it's a fun letter to say.
Yeah, I think Staz isn't a bad shout. As much as he gets painted as like a cheerleader coach from his time in G2, I think that Liquid is actually the type of team that needs an energy guy, but not in the way like Mytha was. They clearly didn't like that. Remember when Mytha was G'ing him up and like Naf and fucking Justin to give him the side eye, like, bro, what are you doing? It needs to be the right disbursement of energy. And I think Taz is a guy that, even if a lot of these kids are still a little bit younger, like Ultimate would definitely look up and respect him because of the Golden Five, right? He's Polish, Shui as well to some degree. And then, you know, maybe as you go down the line, they might remember like that's one of the things immediately that Taz has going for him is a successful playing career, a major trophy in the cabinet, right? So that respect level is already there. And then if he can be a guy that is like, it's so hard when you talk about vibes because you can't really quantify it, but like bringing in the right energy or unlocking the right energy from his players every time they go into the server, I think that's the problem with Liquid. Like it's hard to like look at what their energy is meant to be or how it's balanced or whatever. So I don't hate the suggestion of Taz. I feel like he could potentially do a good job in that team, and it would be structured differently than to what G2 was. So I don't hate the Taz suggestion, and they don't have like I think Damaz Darova is obviously going to stay. Like I think from an analytical perspective of what he brings, every time I talk to somebody from Liquid, they only have positive things to say about his contributions. It's just about how that information is then facilitated to the rest of the team. So. Yeah, like considering the coaches that are on the market, it's not a terrible shout at all. So you know, I think it's an interesting take.
What about a simple situation where apparently he's not going to FaZe, he's not coming back to NaVi, he's just going to go back to the
Jason
bench.
wins the bet, Yanka.
It does?
Yeah, that's what that means.
All right, go for a refill, Jason.
It feels good. It feels really good.
Because if he doesn't come back, then he's not back, is he?
I don't know.
That's
man.
Good argument. I can't argue with that.
I don't know what else like to say about it, right? Like if NaVi doesn't want to sell him for a price that a team is willing to pay, or maybe FaZe don't even want to buy him. Like Brokey's getting back into the Facets. Let me tell you that much. We played together yesterday, me and young Brokey Brokerson, mate. He's going to think a whole lot more of me after that Facet pug, I'll tell you that. So,
you give him the beans?
Man, I fucking he couldn't believe the shit Chatty B was out there doing. He couldn't fucking believe it.
Man.
I think that the simple quandary is, okay, so if FaZe first of all, can't afford him or don't want him, right? Those could be one or the same conversation. It doesn't really matter. NaVi don't want him back, or he doesn't want to play at NaVi. That could also be a factor. Where else could Simple possibly go?
Ooh.
Right?
Well, it's just funny having to have this
the new
5
Sentinels or NV roster.
5 years ago, it would have been wherever he fucking wants, and now we're just like, oh god, there's nowhere.
But the thing is, it's not even like where he would want. Like, so for example, he can't play for Vitality. mouz don't need him. Spirit definitely not going to happen. Mongols no. Aurora
Why don't
no.
mouz need them?
I think Torji's better than him.
G2.
Still got they have some bias.
That's
Still got
right,
said they wouldn't get Simple. We already said FaZe. Falcons don't need him. Furia have Molodoi. Pain,
Holy
no.
fuck.
Astralis, no. VP, no.
I got
Gamer
one.
Legion?
I may.
Can you imagine Simple playing for Gamer Legion?
What about?
It's actually not terrible.
Here's
really.
one. Here's one. If I rewind a little bit, what about Liquid?
Don't hate it either. But I like Little Tim. That's ultimate.
That's
Little
ultimate.
Tim. Little Tim.
Okay, I got it. I'm sorry, I'm
Tim.
having Sedicus flashbacks for that one.
That's all right. I don't get the reference, but
The little gay.
okay. Yeah.
The Liquid side of things. It depends on their feelings about Ultimate if they're sold on him or looking for a potential. But I don't know.
No, but
I don't
hate
know.
that.
I don't know if that'd be a great play. I think in terms of the Counter-Strike, it could be cool.
I think it's a good Hail Mary for him to take.
Hail Mary after Hail Mary for Young Simple.
Listen, if you have NAF back in form, or you replace him with an anchor that can actually deliver, and then you bring Simple in, all right, I'm on. I'm back in.
The problem is, first of all, I also
Let's
don't
go
get.
Liquid.
It's not like Navi is getting anything out of Simple in terms of market, or he's not streaming for them. He's not doing content for them. He's doing fuck all. He's just literally sitting.
He's living his life.
Well,
they've
probably gotten a good amount of money from the stand-ins to FaZe and to the
Falcons.
Falcons. They probably got
Yeah,
a pretty
but
money out of him for that shit.
At this point, I think his contract is up at the end of the year.
Yeah, that's
It's
what I
like,
heard as well.
Why not just? And then the question is, maybe FaZe said, actually, we didn't like how this trial went, and we don't want him, which is fair. But I think for Simple, he definitely needs to sort of decide, does he want to play competitive Counter-Strike still or not? Because if he does, I think at this point, he'll probably have to take a step down of some sorts. Either he can still go to a good team, but lower his salary, so they would be able to afford him, right? Or sign a sort of a 1 year prove it type of a deal, right? With maybe some performance incentives, right? If you end up in the top 10 of HLTV, top 5, top 3 and whatnot, you get like a massive bonus, something along those lines. But I think at this point, he's been away for so long, and he hasn't, in the meantime, grinded CS a whole, a big amount or anything like that. There's not a lot of faith in him still having the fire to be the best player in the world or be a part of the best team in the world. And I think that's what he has to prove, not just to the suitors out there, but to himself, and see if that's it. Of course, I'm sure he got a spark from playing with the FaZe guys and getting to play in an arena. Also got a very shitty feeling of when you underperform in such a big game, and sort of which you could almost never say about the Simple, one of the reasons why they lost that game, right? So that's going to do one of two things for him. Either it is going to light the fire under his ass, and he's going to be like, I'm going to fucking come back and prove to everyone I'm better than all these guys still, and I can still be the best player in the world if I want to. Or it's going to be like, fuck this. I don't want to do this anymore, right? Like one of those two things feels like will happen.
What do you think is more likely, though?
Unfortunately, the latter, where he just sort of hangs
Fades
it
away.
up unceremoniously, maybe like just streams or something, but that would also last for like maybe a couple of months, because it feels like, unfortunately, he's lost like the will to, for any consistent sort of work, or that he just wants to chill, and like, which is, fine, I guess. Just very disappointing for us and everyone who's watched him play and everyone who's followed his career, because he was so fun to watch. He was a guy who defined the game and defined what the ceiling was of individual performance for a good amount of time. And for it to end like that, I think wouldn't be, a fitting end to a player like Simple.
Yeah, well, so I think that the way that we get to the bottom of this is when that contract with NaVi does come to its conclusion. What happens then? That's the real test of what you're saying. Once he's free, is he wanted? And if he's not wanted, does then he just go play for whoever he can, because there's no buyout? He probably look. I don't know. I'm not pocket watching, but I would say that he probably doesn't need like a crazy salary. Of course, he wants and deserves for the type of player he is. But like with the Gamer Legion example, I understand that they're looking at like Kersey, who's like a French AWPer. But like the Game of Legion example, is it even the worst thing in the world? Like, is it really that bad of a look in?
I think it's really bad. I think it's really
Okay.
bad, not because they're bad or anything. I think it's because they have too many young players who are inexperienced still and would make rookie mistakes and just wouldn't have his respect. And Simple definitely needs to adjust his, attitude or expectations a little bit. Absolutely, but that would be, a little bit too much to expect even from him.
I think it'd be baller as fuck if he did it. If he was able to actually mentally put himself in a position to lower expectations is the wrong one, but like maybe temper how you handle the situations in that team. Like Simple's probably the last player to expect to be able to do this, but if you can go into a team accepting that it's going to be a lot of fucking grunt work to get players learning not to make these mistakes, learning fundamentals that you need to have them instituted. If you can grab that patience, there could be something cool there. I honestly don't know what his next step is.
I think there's only one way for Simple to come back into tier 1, and that's from this point on, or wherever player break ends or his summer ends, but preferably tomorrow, right? Start grinding the game again. Just start grinding the game. Start playing 8 FaZe hits a day or whatever it is.
It's a good number.
Have 100
It's a
hours.
strong number.
That's how many I played yesterday.
Have
it's a good
100
number.
or 120 hours in the past 2 weeks for the next 6 months until this next season ends.
You say 120 hours every 2 weeks for 6 months?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like grinding hours. 100
Holy
to 120.
shit.
That's when you're grinding. That's how much you have, Jason. You
Oh
little bitch.
my lord, I don't remember that. I don't
Just leave
remember
your
those
game
ones.
open, Jason.
Yeah.
You get there.
That's
That's how like
fucking
Donk and stuff have
insane.
30,000 hours or
Yeah.
something ridiculous.
So it's just whatever the hours. The point is just grind CS again. Just get on that.
Fall in love
grind,
with the game again.
Play
Yeah.
that. Maybe play some cash cups or something along those. Get some of your friends that are semi-pros or whatever. Like play some stuff or stream or do this or do that. Preferably don't stream. Just grind the game. But that's probably going to be boring in its own right. And just see where you're at. See if you can get your individual level back to where you are comfortable playing the game competitively, because he was very upfront about how embarrassing some of the games were for him from an individual level, and some of the misses that you would never see him some of the shots that you would never see him miss and whatnot. So you have to do that, and that way you also have proven at that point to everyone out there that you're serious about coming back to tier 1 CS. If you can grind the game for 4, 5, 6 hours with no team being on, just for the love of it, just to hone your skills, just to get better, just to learn CS2 more, just to learn some of these players a little bit more if you're playing FPL and playing with some of these pros every game. And that's also for all you guys out there that are aspiring pros. Every game you play, you are representing yourself, and you're giving someone a glimpse into what you're like as a person and as a player, what you're like as a teammate. There's a lot of guys out there who have good mechanics and who are talented. There's not as many that are also good teammates, that have a good approach to Team Counter-Strike, that have a good mentality. So that's what he needs to prove even more so than his individual skill, that he can be that guy for a team, and that he is willing to come back to competitive Counter-Strike under other people's terms, not just under his terms and however he wants it to do. He needs to show that, he's able to commit. And if he can do that, I'm sure Simple will have a plethora of offers come the next transfer window, right? But if not, I think we'll do another episode 6 months from now and talk about the same thing. Okay, he's free now. Who would want him, right?
Well, yeah,
because
think about the landscape.
Think about, for example, a year ago, Chad, or something like that. If I told you, Simple to mouz for Torji. Like, you would be like, that's sick. Like,
the stock has tanked a bit, hasn't it?
The ceiling is higher. He has that fuck you mentality in game, great on stage games, right? All that sort. Now we're saying, like, oh yeah, mouz doesn't want him. They want Torji instead of him, who had the worst series of his life, against Vitality, which sucks because, it's a huge moment. And he was very emotional about it, but,
This conversation's getting
happen,
my fucking dick hard. I fucking love
That's
it.
fine. I already admitted to Jason that I think we lost the bet.
I'm
fine.
I spoke with Simple actually after they lost to the Mongols after they got
Of course you
eliminated at
did.
the major.
You didn't spoke to him after they qualified for the playoffs, did you?
I didn't see him. He was
Funny how that works.
we met. We locked eyes at the bar on opposite sides in the
I bet
hotel
you did.
lobby. Yeah, and
Yeah, I didn't think
I
you
was
met
ordering
at
my
the
drink.
library,
He was
Jason.
ordering his drink, and it was just a moment that we shared. No, I went over and spoke to him, and he kind of talked about what he said in I think his Telegram message or tweet about how like he said it was just like a weird feeling he had when he was like in the game on the stage where he didn't like feel the emotion the way he's used to, both in terms of like positive and negative, like didn't have the negative nerves, didn't have like the positive excitement, like just felt like he said it was just very weird having a blank emotion. But I mean, basically he kind of just briefly said, that he was feeling much more motivated at the time after that loss,
Yeah, well, I guess it's easy to be motivated, but where are you gonna
immediately
end up?
after.
He's
That's
got
the
that-
thing. What,
that's-
7
that's-
days later, is it
That's
still there?
that's the pre-nut fogginess. You know,
Well, isn't it post-nut clarity, not fogginess?
Well, that's what he's saying. Pre-nut fogginess.
Oh, sorry. I thought
You gotta.
okay, yeah,
got you
yeah.
there.
Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
So a week now he has that post-nut clarity. So we'll see where he's at now.
In
Fine,
this,
we have a whole
wait. In this
Go
metaphor,
to a bar now, Jason.
in this metaphor, what's the actual act of?
Well, playing the game.
I
No,
think
if the pre-nut fogginess was his demeanor after the loss to Mongols,
I
and now
think
he's
it's
got
just
post-nut clarity, what is the jerking off in this metaphor?
just time passing, really. It's just nothing. Just sort of the
Really,
regular-
really at the end of the day, that's all it is.
the regularness of life,
regardless.
or maybe just a couple of face it pugs.
Sure.
Just,
Well, he's on
just
vacation right now.
Just
so.
solo queuing face it. That will clear your mind.
Brokey's solo queue and face
Quick
it. That's
fast.
why he's heading back to FaZe.
Yeah, maybe.
It
I mean,
seems
maybe
likely.
that's the reason. It seems like he's going back, but maybe that's
Yeah.
the
Are
reason.
you excited about Brokey back to FaZe? It makes sense.
After he clutched a 1v4 to win the game I was playing with him yesterday, I'm more than excited, Jason.
Was he on your team or was he against you?
Oh, we're on the same team.
Okay, nice,
yeah.
good.
Don't you worry about that.
Dude,
you
I
know?
bet you fucking took all that little bullshit utility memory you have in your head and you were just setting him up a round after. You just attached yourself to his hip, didn't you?
I was the top fragger, Jason. Excuse you.
Really?
What?
Well,
Excuse
It's
you
not.
you.
No, it's not the surprise.
You sound
It's
so surprised.
because whenever Chad plays with us, he takes the more supportive roles because he's the only one who knows
Because none of
500
you know
pieces
any
of
names.
utility. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was just surprised to hear the stylistic switch. I didn't know you were a fluid role swapper from our
I'll play
conversations.
any position that you
podcast.
want, Jason.
Alright.
Anything you want from me, I can do it. All right, I'll be there.
Yeah.
I'll be there in swimwear, so you don't worry about that. Look, the FaZe quandary still exists. Striker even mentioned that like people might be looking at Frozen. Yeah. See, look at that. Look at that. You fucking applause from both.
I
teams. Couldn't
mean-
believe what you were hearing.
I mean, I understand people looking at Frozen. I'm trying to think of a way in which this FaZe project could be in a worse position than it is right now.
Sure.
This team has gone from like one of the best to now like, holy fuck, what are they going to do? Because we've been talking about this, I think, for like 2 years now.
It's been a bit of a slowly
It's
sinking
been like,
ship.
yeah, like how do you get out of this roster change like brick wall that we all see coming around the corner where like you can't really change your veteran players because they have too much stature and too much experience and they bring new people. Like, I don't know, they're in such a weird place all of a sudden that I don't really know what they're supposed to do.
They're hoping that the big question is, did FaZe not want him or could they not afford him? For simple, right?
Yes.
Like that's the big question. And honestly, at this point, I would lean more to they didn't want him, because I can't imagine that the number Navi is asking for at this point in time would be that great.
But what about simple salary? If I were to guess, I would say simple salary on Navi would be something like 70,000. Like, this is full guess. I have no idea, but I would say it's probably like 60 to 70,000 a month.
I'd say
Maybe
I would
50,
say
60.
between 50 to 70, somewhere in there.
Okay,
But
but we're in
I-
the range.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I
We're in the
wouldn't say
ballpark.
that he was getting that on the bench, because then Navi would be more willing to part ways with him if
Sure,
that's what
yeah,
they have
yeah,
to
yeah.
pay him, every month for just sitting on the
Sitting
bench.
there.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but wait, what were the rumors when Simple was loaned to Falcons either the first or second times? It was like the rumor was it was like a $250,000 loan fee or something like that.
I have no idea.
I mean,
Yeah, but Falcons are also unique in that sense.
yeah, but
I mean,
the way I'm thinking about it is like if let's just say they got $200,000
pays
from
for
Falcons.
himself,
Let's say
yeah.
the 200,000 the second time, 400,000 you got for loaning Simple out for 2 different events because one of them was a major, so you got to make some extra money off of that for the value. All of a sudden, if he's making 60 grand and his bench salary is like 50% of what his traditional salary is, you've just paid for like a year of his you paid for a shit ton of his contract with 2 transfers. So they might not actually be losing money on him, in which case they don't have to necessarily be super motivated to give a discount on the buyout clause.
But I think
those are a lot of assumptions during that stretch. But
of course. But let's assume that what you're saying is correct. They were making enough money to kind of cover his salary. You'd still want to sell him before his contract ends, because if his contract ends, then he goes for free.
And his contract, as far as I know, and Yanko said as well, we both heard, I guess, that it's ending towards the end of this year. So if you,
now I have no idea.
If you say you have like 4 or 5 months left on the contract, like if you're a team, you could go in and maybe try and get a cheaper buyout fee for it if you want to go that route, which would be interesting.
Yeah, well, look, we got back on Simple, but I think the point that Yanko was building was
from the FaZe context.
I think the point that Yanko was building was that they didn't want him. So then, what do FaZe want?
Yeah, I think they're hoping that the little benching for Brokey sort of
lights a fire.
Lights a fire a little bit, or gets him back to shape in a way, right? And helps him refocus, because if you look back,
tough to get fucking benched for the major.
Yeah,
that is a harsh lesson.
Hey, Brokey, missed the best event, bruh.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's not
Tough
a better
love,
motivator in a way, right? Like to have to sit out an event that big, especially being back in NA. But maybe they'll look back and say, if we just had Brokey on his good level, sort of a little bit above average level, we might have gone a lot further in the tournament, right? And that's what they're hoping to get.
Sure.
On the return.
Sure.
In a way for FaZe, I think. And
so they just go back to the same roster they had prior to Simple standing in.
Now this is what we call roster blue balls.
But who could they have gotten? I mean,
well, this is the thing, because most people, when you talk about doing a rebuild at FaZe, you keep Carrigan, you keep Frozen, you keep Elige. That's what people would like. That's the default response if you talk to anybody, not anybody, but I asked this question in our Discord the other day, and that's what they said. I said, what would you do with FaZe? And they're like, well, you keep Frozen, you keep Elige, you keep Carrigan. Okay, so now you need an AWPer. All right, you can't buy Simple, you don't want Simple. Well, then where else do you go for an AWPer? Did you get Hades? Is he of the caliber required? Well, there you go. So we're going to run out of options pretty quick.
The Sland.
Right?
Take it the other direction as well. When you have Frozen and you have Elige, you probably say that next rifler, you want someone who's going to be a little bit more focused on like fundamentals and being a smart player and making good decisions. You have a lot of the firepower, which would lead you to a player like Rain.
Sure,
you know what I mean?
This is where I think people would hope that FaZe would take a risk on younger talent, like what's being done with the NaVi, et cetera, right? But at the same time, it's like, is that FaZe? Well, I didn't think that was NaVi. I didn't think but NaVi are obviously doing it, and they've done it before. Bit was one of the players promoted from their academy.
No, but I think also these are the risks you have to take if you're a team that isn't going to have any kind of like an academy team. Like at some point, you're going to have to make the decision.
They do have an academy now, I think.
FaZe has an academy team?
I think so.
Ooh.
Hold up. FaZe Academy. Or they were working on that. CS2 team. Let's see what it comes up here. Because
That's
I swear, FaZe Academy to acquire Nadasafix as coach. This was as of the 24th of June. This is
okay. So it's not there. It's not there yet.
No. So they're establishing one.
Okay.
Okay. Well, maybe that's to mitigate these type of problems going forward.
Yeah.
Can you get 6 months out of this phase again to be good enough to make it to a couple of playoffs? Probably.
I mean, I think
hopefully.
I think also you shouldn't have a super large fear in terms of dropping out of VRS. Like this lineup should be good enough to keep you in the VRS.
What about Flamus? Oh, you don't need another aggressive player, do you?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a weird one, and it hasn't been solved. And like, I don't think the simple move obviously didn't have the Hail Mary finish that they wanted, and
they made the playoffs.
And I don't think it gave them.
Yeah, but with that bracket, Chad, they should have been in the final.
Nah, Mongols are good, Yanko.
If they had gotten past Mongols, they should have been in the finals.
Let's go, Mongols.
So basically, Jason just calling pain shit. It's fine.
And Furia.
And Furia.
Actually, Jason just hates Brazil as much as he loves alcohol.
That's what it is. Definitely put that one out into the world. That's going to be great.
Draft5.gg. I can't wait till you get the article on that one, Jason. They hit me a couple times. You'll be next.
Perfect. Give it to me. Yeah, I don't know. The FaZe is screwed, I think.
FaZe is screwed. End of conversation. FaZe is screwed.
I don't know where they go is the biggest problem, and it's clear that there's something dysfunctional going on in that team. So unless Brokey comes back and it's a whole new lease on life and there's something like wildly changed, I don't think the FaZe story is going to change all that much either.
What if FaZe and NaVi trade in-game leaders?
Oh, now we're cooking. Like a little
I
fucking
would
key
think
swap,
Harry
a little.
Well, we forgot about one thing with Navi. This latest thing from, was it Overdrive, where it's like MPL was approached by Navi and he rejected them about coming back
Do you think
to
this
the
is for the
roster.
McCarthy slot, or do you think this is for a different position? Because this
He's
is where
been
the
IGLing,
conversation's
hasn't
so
he?
much-
NPL.
Well, he has, yes.
The plot thickens.
I would
Because I
say
did.
it was
go
for the
ahead.
IGL one. If I had to guess, I would say they would bring both MPL and Makazi in.
What does Yanko know, Jason?
I don't
What does he
know, but he speaks.
Obviously nothing, Chad.
Has Nico been back to Serbia post-major yet, or is he still on holidays? That's what we got to be asking ourselves around here,
Still on his
Jason.
fucking boat, if I had to guess.
Okay, so he hasn't had.
He's
over
been
dinner
throwing out
yet.
some great dinner pictures. I'm not gonna lie to you on his Instagram.
What about Hunter? Has Hunter come home for a little bit? He's got kids and stuff. Hunter has to come home. You had a meal with Hunter? What's been going on, Yanko?
I don't know, man. Hunter's pretty busy guy. You know, he's gonna be an IGL now. He's a dad. Equally difficult roles.
They need to get a fifth.
The family
need to get a
IGL.
fifth.
Yeah.
They're going to have Malbs, the Heavy God, Sampaius, Hunter, in-game lead. They need a fifth. They could use a Flammus.
They could. I think that's
That could be cool.
a good solution for them, maybe for the short term. It feels like when we talked also about Heroic with Tanir, it feels like he's gone the next transfer window. He would have been gone this one, but they already changed 2
They
players.
lose the core, yeah.
So they can't do anymore. I think Flamus, I don't know how expensive he would be because, you know, VP
He
put him
just
on the
signed
bench.
a contract as
I
well.
know he
for
did.
4 years.
I know he did, but VP doesn't want him. So it's like, how much money do you want to get? And he's only been on the team for 6 months, so it's not like you've been paying him for a long time. So I think there's probably a deal to be made there, and then Saw as a coach could probably put him to work, put him to good use. He would be rejuvenated. You know, he would have something to prove after his VP stint. That's probably a pretty good shout, and also fits the sort of caliber of players that G2 has been bringing recently.
Sure. What if they, with all the money they got for the Monacy and the Nico sales went big? What if they tried to buy a player from like a team? What if they tried to buy Frozen from FaZe or something?
I don't know as if I would Frozen make the move in a way.
I don't know. I guess you comparing the pair.
That's the thing.
Is there
It's
much
so
difference?
funny. We're coming back to the thing we talked about. It's like, well, in order to bring now when you lost Nico and Monacy, in order to bring someone, a superstar player, you're gonna have to overpay him, like, and probably play extra to the org because they know you need one, and then you're back to the same position you were at before this whole thing began, really, in a way. But I heard that, you know, Saw and Sampaius weren't cheap. Like
I
that,
think they paid
of
more
course
for
not.
Saw than they did for Sampaius. But
they
yeah,
did,
combined
like,
they're expensive.
that was over $1 million, like, for the two of them.
Yep.
As
Heroic
it should
is
be.
making bank. Heroic
Yeah,
just keeps
Heroic's-
selling players.
Heroic's actually done really good. Their business model's killing it.
They're the
Packages.
ends.
Dental
They're
business
the
model.
ends of CS2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, people are
When
talking
you-
about
yeah.
Kaspersky and McAfee and all the antiviruses for
Yeah,
G2.
yeah, that's true. He was in the mix.
They
He
need a
was
better
in the mix.
immune system.
I actually think G2's not in a terrible place.
I don't know.
G2. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think they're in an okay place. It's
Like-
obviously going to depend on how Hunter does. but
I
yeah.
actually think
Where
that
do you think they are compared to this time last year, Jason?
what was going on? How do you expect me to? What the fuck was happening in July of last year? Just
I mean, in
like,
terms of the team that they had.
they had just won. I guess they had just won Dallas,
Yeah, then Hooksy got the boot.
and then Hooksy got the boot. I think they were stronger last year at this point, but I think
But
considering
after this point,
yeah, I think considering how much I think they bungled like the GMing with the Nico and Monacy situation over the course of the last year and a half, I actually think they're in a position now to be able to style it out and stick the landing pretty decently, which is surprising to me.
okay.
You know, like I think that team, I think G2, I think you had to have left the major being impressed with their run. or being like pleasantly surprised by. For me, at least, I was pleasantly surprised they made it. They looked a lot better and they got a lot deeper than I expected them to.
They made it. No, they ended at the same stage they started.
I think he means in the type of Counter-Strike that they were putting on display.
Yeah, I thought they were going to look like an absolute shit show. Like I actually, no joke, I had them as an 0-3 team in that group.
So did I.
I thought they were going to be an absolute train wreck. So in that sense, I think they were better. But then you look at, Senpias and Saw coming in. I've got a lot of respect for Saw as a coach. Hunter Mobs, Heavy God sticking around. Like I think you're actually in a position now where you can stick the landing depending on the rest of your signings and how you complete this roster.
There's only one more player, right? So who's that going to be? This team has a lot of raw potential to milk before the post nut clarity. So they definitely.
Amen, brother.
Jesus, he really pulled that together in a way.
They definitely have. They have
saw what you
team
did there, Jason.
Could be very exciting. Could be very, very exciting. Oh, but we got into the type of conversation I said I feel is a hard conversation to have, is talking ring around the rosy about rosters.
Yeah, but they're fun conversations.
They're
fun conversations with the right teams. I thought
you were going to say the right people, Jason. That would have been nicer.
Well, with the right people as well. But if us try to talk about the NaVi change, it's like I haven't seen him play.
Just go on YouTube and watch some of the VODs.
I know, I'm going to.
Do your fucking research, Jason.
Hey, it's the fucking off-season, dick faces. I can chill a little bit.
What do you mean, man?
I don't have work for another 10 days, 11 days.
It's not work, Jason. It's professional life.
I don't have fun for another 10 days.
It's professional life. That's what it is.
Professional life. So I can relax. I got leaves to rake.
Leaves to rake?
I got shit, man. But yeah, I think it's a lot harder to like assess what that's gonna look like with like a new NaVi with that guy coming in versus like a being hypotheticals about FaZe and about Simple and stuff.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I think this is one of the things when I do the research on these players. Like I went through Skybox Edge and I looked at all the positions Makazi plays, and I was like, okay, he likes map control. Like that's what he does. All right, I've got to I go and watch some VODs. Okay, mechanically looks very strong, but that's it. That's all I can base it off of.
Yeah.
It's not the same as when I watch a Kiyosuke VOD or a Donk VOD, and I'm like, woof.
Well, those guys, the skill might just be so overwhelming that, it's just like, oh God, like the other stuff isn't as big of a deal when you see just the raw, unfiltered skill.
Yeah. All right, boys, we got anything else we want to talk about today?
It feels like we winded down.
Yeah.
I'm all good.
Feels like we're in a good spot.
Yeah, we've done almost 2 hours. That's pretty good.
It is really good.
I did 3.5 hours with Duncan on Monday. I did 3 hours on Tuesday. And I just did 2 hours now.
All right.
So that's 8.5 hours of podcasting.
How much money you make off those 8.5 hours of podcasting? Not enough?
No, I think I enjoyed my time in all occasions. And that's better than money, Jason. Yeah.
Amen.
All right, let's get out of here.
Cheers, Jason.
Arrivederci.